Assalamualaikum and welcome to another episode of Checkpoint Coffee. It's Munis this time and we'll be doing this one in English. That being said, today we're going to be talking to a very prominent figure in the local esports scene, specifically in the Rocket League scene. We're going to be talking to Yoghurt from the recent championship winners of Dirag Supersonic by Glitch Gaming, the team Juice Juice. So Yoghurt is one of the members of Juice Juice and we're going to be talking to him a little bit about the team itself, the tournament, and Rocket League. So without any further ado, let's just jump right in. Yoghurt, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Yep, it's really good to have you here. And I gotta say, first of all, congratulations on the victory of the tournament, Inge. You guys beat the Baguettes, which were another top Maldivian team in the finals, and you have now won. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, and very pleased to be here as well on the podcast.
Much appreciated. So let me just get things started, right? So let's talk about the team, Juice Juice, right? The first thing I gotta ask you is the name. Where did the name come from? Because it's really funny to say, and I really like it, but it's always got me like thinking, why did they name it that, you know? So,
well, to be fair, initially, the way I came up with my name was very similar to how we came up with Juice Juice. The thing was, it's based on one of my favorite foods, so it's very simple. What happened was the tournament deadline was coming up, so we had to apply as soon as possible. I think it was about 2 days left, and I couldn't figure out like what to name it. And at that time, our club name in Rocket League, it had just been named Juice Juice, just because we had an inside joke regarding just orange juice in general.
Okay.
And so because of that, we just decided to go with that exact name and didn't bother changing it.
I think it works, you know, simplicity itself. Like, I think a lot of the announcers of the tournament as well got a lot of fun out of the name, Juice Juice, you know. So another question I want to ask you guys is, how did you guys get to be a team? You know, so how did you guys meet in Rocket League and decide to play together? And yeah, so let's start with that, and then we can talk about how long you've been playing together.
Yeah. So for this tournament specifically, we decided to form a team together. So it was our first time. There was a tournament held before this, and in that, me and our second teammate Humas, we actually had another teammate, and we played against Raf's team in the final. Raf is our third member currently, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, I think Raf was also one of the top players in Maldives. Unfortunately, we had already confirmed our third player, so we couldn't get Raf. But for this tournament, we decided that Raf would be probably a good spot for us, and he blends well in how passive me and Humas' playstyle are, and he's very aggressive.
Oh yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I watched a lot of his games, and he is extremely aggressive in a really interesting way. Always a joy to watch him play.
Yes, I agree. And so we just hit him up on Discord and had a few test runs with him and decided that we would go ahead and make a team.
So you're telling me that you went and basically swept this tournament while still being a new team? Like, how much practice did you manage to get in?
Yeah, so I guess it's better to go into the history of how me and Raf first met. I think that's better if that's fine with you.
Go ahead.
So I was in Gyasuddin before, the school, Gyasuddin school, and Raf was about 4 to 5 years younger than me. He was about 5 grades below. So we almost had no communication because obviously he's that small, right? But a few years down the line, one of my friends in Gyasuddin actually texted me and said there's a really good Rocket League player and you have to try playing against him. And that's how I initially met Raf. So we've been playing together for about 3 years now, on and off, just randomly meeting each other and also playing with each other.
So it's not just consistently in a team, it's just that you've been facing each other, maybe even getting on one side, sometimes friendlies, basically.
Yep, and with Humas, I introduced him to the game at my house initially, I think in 2017, 2016, around then. And then we've been playing together since then as well.
And Humas, again, is another one of the really notable players from your team. So it's really wonderful to see all of you guys play together. You play together very well. It's kind of amazing to think that these guys basically started from nothing and just worked their way up here. Fantastic play so far in the tournament, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Let's talk a little bit about the tournament itself, right? So you said that there were you managed to be like the late registration, right? Were you at all nervous going into the tournament?
Yeah. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of practice together, so that was one thing. We had to get that done at least a week or two before the tournament as well. And we knew a lot of the teams that were participating, including Storm, including the Baguettes, who have even beat like some of our teams or teams we've played in before as well. So we were sure that we would have a huge challenge ahead of us, especially since they were so good and about the same ranks as us, even in the game itself.
Right.
So
right.
in that sense, we were pretty nervous. Yeah.
So despite your nerves, you did go in, and in the group stage, I think you guys performed pretty well. I think that up until the very end, you haven't actually lost a single match, even though you might lose a game or two here and there. So, like, when the tournament started, does this nervousness kind of change? Because, I mean, let's face it, you guys were cleaning up quite, it appeared to be quite easily. So, how did your mentality change while you were going through the tournament, at least in the group stage?
I think for sure our nerves went away pretty quickly. I think once we started to find our groove with every match we played and all the practice matches that we played off the main stage as well, really helped us gain confidence. And by the time we made it to knockouts, it was pretty good. Our practice partners were actually Storm.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So really, hats off to Storm, especially their captain Ian. He always arranged it for us. It was very, very a good help, especially to our confidence and to develop our playstyle because we practice against them.
So, when you met Storm in the tournament, how did that affect your like play style or your mentality? That must have been kind of like a student meets the master kind of situation, huh?
Yeah, Storm always looked like the better team in the sense that they had a way better synergy because I believe they've been playing together for a very, very long time. I think they're probably the longest standing roster in all the teams that participated in the tournament. Their passing plays are very, very, very amazing play overall, individual skill as well. And even though our practice matches were close, we always felt like they were the better team. So going into it, we were always very nervous. So,
just for the people who are listening who may not have known how things turned out, why don't you tell us a little bit about how the match went for you guys?
Yeah, it started off. It was a best of 5. It started off with us losing the first match out of the 4 that we would eventually end up playing. I think we played super well. Probably the best we played was the match against Storm, honestly, and that being the first match, even though we lost it. I think we played super aggressive, which was very unlike us, but we really liked the momentum, so we kept up that play style, and we just kept hyping each other up and calling out or communicating very effectively to try catch them off guard and keep up the pressure. And I think developing a strategy after practicing against them so much is what eventually led to the win.
And what a win it was. You guys basically just kept winning after that, did not let them take a single game more, and you just kind of took the whole thing. So that's pretty impressive. Now we've talked a little bit about how you train with this team. So let's talk about some of the other teams. I'm sure you would have seen some of the play in the tourney, right? Were there any other teams that you found that used interesting strategies that you kind of incorporated, or was it always your own thing that you kind of put out there?
I think Baguettes had a pretty similar style because they were very aggressive, and so did Capelot. Capelot seemed to have a mixture of like keeping one player on defense and two to press the opposing defense, which was extremely effective against some teams that gave them so much space. So for sure, I think most of us all got our strategies or all had developed our mindset of play just watching like professional Rocket League matches that are streamed live, right? Like international tournaments.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we all tend to follow and eventually develop.
When it comes to international players, right? Are there any teams or players that you find to be your personal inspirations, or even Juice as a team, not just Yoghurt as a player?
I think individually we have very different teams that we all support and different players. We all have very different play styles as well. Like Raf, for example, plays a lot of ones, so I'm pretty sure he might like some ones plays. Although I haven't had a chat about him about that. For me specifically, I really liked the Yukio, who's a Rocket League player as well. And Humas also supports a lot of teams like NRG, I think, and also usually Humas also someone who really loves the underdogs to see them thrive, and I think that's something about him that's pretty cool as well, since he felt like we were the underdogs at times too.
My goodness, that's kind of funny to hear from the perspective of somebody who was watching the tourney, because it seemed like you guys were dominating at every step. But it's still interesting to hear. And just so any listener is not too lost, the Baguettes is the runner-up team of Diraga Supersonic, and Capalot, I think, was the third place team. And Capalot also noteworthy for being a really young team. So perhaps we'll look into seeing what they're about one day. But for now, let's continue talking about Juice Juice. So now that you guys have won this tournament, and let's be honest, it was you won it with style. Let's put it that way. You know, like I don't think that there was any point that you felt seriously threatened. But let me ask you that: was there any point that you really felt like your team was seriously threatened? That you guys were in like a lot of pressure? What was the hardest moment throughout the whole experience?
Yeah, I think we were really off our game in the match against 13, which was our first knockout match. And their playstyle was even more aggressive than ours. It was very different and very haphazard. We weren't used to it at all.
Right.
And so they committed a lot of players on attack, and we weren't ready for that kind of pressure because it was always us who was trying to exert pressure on the enemy team. So it's very hard for us to adapt to that, and that put us on edge. But Storm, I still believe, was the hardest team we faced. I know it may have looked like a sweep, and sweep as in after the first game, but I think it was still difficult to play against them because they always have so much pace, and their defense is just like a brick wall. It's crazy.
Plus, you guys did play together, so I suppose they would know you pretty well, right? So
Yep.
the ins and outs of your defense as well. So let's talk a little bit about the future. So what do you see next for Juice Juice? Are you guys going to be participating in more tournaments together? Or do you think that perhaps trying to go internationally might be something you would be interested in?
In terms of international Rocket League, there's not a lot of opportunities that would present itself like that, especially since Asia isn't considered a major region for
What?
Rocket League.
I'm pretty sure we got more population than all of those other regions. Like, come here, fight me. Anyway, continue, please.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Moldavian players were at their peak at about 2018, 2017, 18, when we had a lot of tournaments going on in the Asia region as well. And now that has kind of died down a bit. But to compete even within the Asia region against teams that are outside of Maldives is a tall ask, especially with the amount of hours that they put in. And to them, it's much more of a dedication and commitment than it is for us, since we're all like students and we have other things that we usually put time aside for.
Yeah, plus I guess even now esports in the Maldives is kind of in its infancy, so people still don't take it as seriously as it should be taken, right?
Yeah, true. I think it'll take some time, probably as our generation continues to get older. I think slowly esports will become more of a mainstream thing than it is now. Obviously, it's like you said, in its infancy right now. It'll take some time. And hopefully, as the years go on, I believe that the esports scene in Maldives will develop for sure. And I just want to mention that there is a Rocket League tournament that's coming up, I think on the 14th of May, that almost all the teams you saw in this tournament will probably participate as well.
Oh man, that sounds exciting. I would love to see that one as well. Looking forward to that. So, I guess the next area that we can kind of focus a little bit on is Rocket League itself, right? And at this point, I guess it's a little too late to explain this, but like if anybody doesn't know what Rocket League is, you can basically imagine it as a game that basically mixes remote control cars that explode with football, but also basketball. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting sport-like game. It's really fun, really exciting. You should definitely check it out. And it's free to play now, so you have no real reason not to give it a try because it costs you nothing. But anyway, moving on from that, let's talk about Rocket League. You mentioned that 2018 was considered to be the peak of Rocket League in the Maldives. What makes you say that?
Yeah, 2017, 2018, because I think we had so many players then.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the players, especially the ones you see in Storm and even Raf, Humus, even I, and a bunch of other players hit our peak rank, so which is the highest rank possible. A lot of us, I think a few of us, me, Raf, hit Grand Champion, which was the highest rank at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the players on Storm also hit Champion 3, which was the second highest rank. And I think as players, we were probably playing at our best at that time, but the incentive to play kind of died down after we didn't have that many tournaments. So we didn't have anything to play for after we reached the highest rank. So a lot of people started to leave the game or just let it be, and that's the reason why our skill level maybe fell.
I see. Yeah. So I guess there was a little bit of a drought in terms of tournaments, but hey, we saw one just end recently, and as you say, there's one coming up, and it sounds like Rocket League's kind of making a little bit of a comeback in the Maldives. Always very nice to see. I think that there are a lot of talented players here, yourself and your team included as well. So let's talk about getting into Rocket League, right? Let's say that I am, or the hypothetical listener is someone who doesn't know anything about it. Like, what would you say if somebody wants to give it a try? What's the easiest way to go about it? What are the things that they should expect or think about in terms of this game?
Right. I think the most important thing when you're getting into any game is making sure that you're having fun. So
of course,
one way to get into Rocket League would be obviously to play with your friends, especially since it's free to play. It's pretty easy to just have a go with all of your friends, see if you like it, test the waters. I think if you are looking to find out how, strategies to play or find out how to improve yourself, there are a lot of friendly content creators on YouTube that you can just search up.
That sounds really awesome. You hear that, guys? If you ever want to give it a try, please feel free to jump right in. You're gonna love it. You can blow cars up. It's great, and it's like you get to score goals too. It's the best sport ever. Anyway, I guess that's kind of all the stuff that I kind of wanted to talk to you about, Yogurt. Thank you so much for taking some time to just talk to us about it. I really wish the best for you and your team going forward. All right, so thanks for listening to yet another episode of Checkpoint Coffee, and maybe you kind of learned a little thing or two about Rocket League. Maybe you might want to give it a try, or maybe you might want to check out some of these really interesting tournaments that are going on around the Maldives these days. Either way, it's all a lot to take in, so we'll leave you for now on that note. Thanks again.